So that's your encounter with Miley Cyrus. That is incredible. Okay.
It was insane.
All right. Well, let's get back to where we were talking. You were talking about Scottrade. All right. So at Scottrade, your day to day at Scottrade was in-house job, corporate, a little bit boring, but lots of meetings.
Lots of meetings. Yeah, and so it was very kind of conservative, if you will. But it was a really good job. You know, it was one of those places that had good benefits and good pay and a lot of job security, which was great. But yeah, I got to the point after 8 years that I kind of wanted to move on to something else, and that's when I got on with the company I'm with right now, which is Perficient.
Okay, real quick, Scottrade. I remember when you were at Scottrade, you got to do like a lot of like Cardinal baseball games, hockey games, guns and hoses. Tell us the perks of the corporate world.
Yeah, so we had you know, we had a lot of clients. Well, actually, we were the client of a lot of people. So there were a lot of companies that like to advertise with us and whatnot. So they would come in to St. Louis and they would take us out to ball games, you know, and hockey games and all kinds of good stuff. That was those were kind of the perks as well.
Because they would pay Scottrade to advertise on their website, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, yep.
So you had lots of meetings every day. You had different projects you were working on, but it was all like Scottrade related.
Yeah, so it was kind of always the same thing. You always, the good thing was you knew what to expect. You knew, you know, the people that you were working with, so you knew how to interact with them. But it was kind of the same old after a while. Yeah.
What were you building web-wise for Scottrade?
So Scottrade is a stock trading company. So we had several platforms that people could use to trade stocks, anywhere from kind of beginner to intermediate to very advanced. So that's what I was designing, and so this is where I'm kind of getting away from what you would call web design. Really, you know, if you go see a website or whatever, this is more application oriented. So you know, how people trade stocks. It's a very complicated system. There's things you have to learn on the fly. For instance, trading options, which was and still is above my head a little bit, but you have to learn enough to know how to design for that. So that was interesting as well. You know, always had to learn new things. But
so like, you know, when they go to the Scottrade website, they click on something and it takes them to a different web page, and then they click on something, takes them to a different web page. You had, or Scottrade had a hand in developing all those?
Yeah, I mean, we developed all our own stuff. So people might go online, they might go onto our application to trade stock. They might go research first. So we had, you know, research that came in from all these different companies like Wall Street On Demand, Dow Jones, Yahoo, all these things that would feed into the application that we presented to our customers so that they could have all this research at their fingertips. And so the part of it was trying to understand how people interacted with that. It's like, where did they go to look for research? What were they thinking when they were making a stock trade, that sort of thing. So
you would even do like, look at like market studies and see where traffic went more than others?
that was part of it, but a lot of times we had actual users come in and we would interview them, and they would actually interact with the system, and we would observe them and ask them questions as they went through it. So
the whole spectrum then.
yeah, and that's really getting more into the user experience type of arena. So again, kind of getting away from just the web design and like the visual look of it, getting more into the psychology of it really, and understanding how people used these systems. And
so that's interesting, because web design, everyone in the class today wants to know about web design, and you want to design websites, but from what I'm hearing, very little. I mean, maybe half your day is actually designing websites. You need to interact with customers, find out their behaviors, you need to interact with, you know, bosses in different departments of what they want, you know? It's, I mean,
Yeah.
actually sitting down and designing a web design job doesn't sound like an 8 hours of designing a web page each day.
Oh, no. It's a lot of research. It's research as in, you know, getting your users to kind of tell you what they're looking for. It's understanding what the stakeholders want. When I say stakeholders, it's people that are, you know, they want a particular product on that application. So there's a, you know, a vice president, a director, and a project manager. So I have to understand what they're trying to get out of it, and then I also have to understand what benefit that is to the users, and then try to combine that and design for that.
Okay. But some of the fun stuff of Scottrade, other than like the advertisers taking you out, there's a very laid-back work environment. I've heard of like ping pong tournaments and stuff going on.
Yeah, so it was a pretty conservative company, but myself and a couple other people at the company wanted to get an innovation lab going. So to try to think outside the box, as they say. And surprisingly, we actually got that done. We had a group of developers, project managers, UX designers like myself, and we got our own little room, and we had a ping pong table there and Xbox and all that stuff. And what it really comes down to is that the people that, you know, the executives and whatnot, trusted us enough. They knew that we were hard workers. They knew that we could produce, and so they gave us a little bit of leeway to sort of have a little fun, and they knew that we were all creative people, and so it's hard to sit down at a desk 8 hours a day and just do stuff. You need to step up and get a little ping pong tournament going.
Sure,
you know, it helps break it up a little bit and keeps your productivity going.
Sure, and
Yeah.
morale up, sure. What, you mentioned UX design.
Mhm.
What's UX?
So UX stands for user experience, and so when web design started, it was more, you know, developers that were just building these sites and putting it up. They didn't really care. They weren't paying attention to like who was using them or how people really interacted with it. So UX kind of gets more into the psychology of like how, and in fact now they call it HCI, human-computer interaction. So how do humans interact with the computer, and when they're on that computer, how do they interact with that application you're designing? And so you're always kind of trying to get into the head of the user.
Right.
And over time, what has come to light is that, you know, if you design around your users, you have a very successful product. If you're
Right.
designing more just for what the stakeholders want, then oftentimes you miss the mark.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not so much designing what you want, it's designing what